Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll call the meeting to order. I want to thank everyone for coming. For the first time since, I believe, Christmas, we have our full city council here in council chambers. So welcome back to Councilman Rigger. It's good to have him here. It's good to have everybody here. So I'm not used to being this close to everybody. It's amazing what we have to get used to as we continue to get further away from the core of COVID. Good news today.
It's actually Thanksgiving.
Was it Thanksgiving? Well, I was being optimistic with Christmas, but some good news today. The Charleston Kanawha County Health Department reported no new active cases in Kanawha County today. So that our state's most populous county reported no new active cases for the first time in over 400 days. So that's good. So things are starting to trend in a positive direction. As we let's enter our moment of silence as we call the meeting to order, and then we will proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I know that technically on the pecking order it is Mr. Howell, but if it's okay, I'd like, since we've got some folks here in the room as guests with the Colonial Theater Board, I'd like to recognize the Colonial Theater first. So I don't know who wants to. John, you're here. You're listed as wanting to speak, so I'll let you take the reins.
I'm happy to. We'll be doing a 30-minute production for all of you. Enjoy.
Okay.
We're happy there. Yeah, well, no, that's fine. Well, I really appreciate Mayor and Council. I appreciate the chance to be here to talk about the good work of the Colonial Theater Board and all the folks that have had something to do with it. Certainly some of our board members are here with us tonight, in Elisa and Keith, also in Randy. Erica is in a meeting. She said she would come if we want her to, so you just let her know and she'll be over. A special thanks to, obviously, to Bryson. His leadership has been, Bryson Van Nostrand's leadership has been critically important. KB Same is with us tonight. For a practitioner in theater to be so generous with her time and expertise is sometimes uncommon to find. So I hope we all appreciate that people like KB spend time with us and help us with this work, which is important. So the Colonial Theater Board has had two major meetings. We had really a first meeting that was a working meeting that lasted a few hours, second meeting that was a shorter working meeting, and on Tuesday we actually begin our regular meetings. So the Tuesday meetings will be the first Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. In council chambers. Those are open meetings that obviously anyone can join us at, so we would certainly encourage that if anybody has any input or thought. As we got into the work, we established a prioritization of some things we hope to accomplish as the Colonial Theater Board. Those involved, first of all, thinking about the naming and the naming conventions, which were really important. We had all been loosely referring to it as the Colonial or the Colonial Theater or whatever it might be. So we wanted to work on that. Second, a mission statement that might help drive some of our decision making. Third, a programming policy that KB and some others had actually put some of the groundwork on a while ago, and it gave us the chance to start somewhere and refine something. And then our next steps will be really to think about staffing, HR, some of those kind of things that are really next steps that require a little more depth. So I believe as a part of your packet you have copies of the mission statement, also the programming policy. I just want to go over some highlights of it. So first of all, the naming convention that we arrived at was the Colonial Arts Center. or the CAC, also known as the Colonial, in maybe short form. The reason for the Colonial Arts Center and not the simple title Colonial Theater is that the facility already is much more than a theater. There's a art gallery that certainly has its own life, and Bryson and members of Art 26201 have certainly been critical to that, but there's a show right now where Andy Warhol pieces and Jasper Johns pieces are hanging in our town, in Buckhannon, in an art gallery that's part of that facility. There'll be classroom spaces downstairs, obviously a second space upstairs, so there would be the Colonial Theater within certainly the space, but we believe the Colonial Arts Center is much more indicative of what that space will be and might help us as we try for grant opportunities and other things in the future to speak to that being a sort of community hub. With that in mind, I know today you will take up the issue of whether that name is suitable or fitting, so certainly as we move forward, that's our recommendation that the term Colonial Arts Center will be utilized as the official name for the facility. Also, there's been work already started on some branding, maybe some logos, images, things that we would bring back to council once we had that sort of as the next piece. Secondly, the mission statement, which we spent a good bit of time on, that we arrived at, is that the Colonial Arts Center will serve as a community arts hub, facilitating and providing venues for creative and educational opportunities for students, artists, and audience members through diverse programming. We wanted a brief mission statement, but we wanted one that spoke to education, the community nature of the facility, also the fact that it was a space for artists, especially as we try to add to a quality of life, sense of place, all those kind of things that we believe the Colonial can bring to our, to our group. Any questions about those two things? I'd like to speak a little bit to the programming policy. The programming policy that's in your packet is listed as a draft, and the reason it's listed as a draft, what we are hoping to adopt today is the formality of the programming policy, but we recognize that things will change as we work through this. For example, if a hire were to be made, a professional person will be working, we want to figure out where that person slots into this work, how the workflow works, and so on and so forth. What the programming policy was designed to do is create a system by which the Colonial Theater Board or Colonial Arts Center Board would make decisions as things would come and someone would want to request the space. So if, Jerry Arnold forms a new band, he wants to bring his band down there, and maybe some community arts group wants to do something in it, we would talk about where does that fit in? How do we prioritize those things? How are those decisions made without someone believing someone is playing favorites or doing anything like that? So we establish a protocol inside this, first of all, establishing the board itself as the decision-making group on that policy, and then as you work through it, it really establishes a sort of priority of use. One, city arts educational program always has first priority. So anything sponsored by the city, anything that is associated with the city, any arts programming that comes through that is really its top priority. Next would be fiduciary partners, which at the moment would include groups like Art 26201 and Buckhannon Community Theater. Those are people actively raising money for the facility, giving money to the facility, or working to improve the facility. And then next it would be other arts-focused entities that are considered first for those kind of things, and then non-arts groups. So there might be somebody that wants to have a wedding inside the space or something of that nature. So all of those things, and it's not to say you wouldn't book any of those things, but you want to create, we believe, a system that was fair and thorough to evaluate those things. As you go on through, there are also rental rates and things that have been established by studying the sort of local behaviors, local rental rates, kind of best practice in that arena. We recognize that those would probably need to be altered and changed as we moved along. You won't know until you try to rent those spaces what someone's willing to pay for it, how they're going to treat it, all those kind of things. And those include things like technicians that they might have to pay to be in the space, cleaning that might need to be done in the space, all of those kind of things that someone would need to be paying for if they were using the space. So the programming policy is just meant to create a system by which the board can evaluate those. We created those requests starting that they would come to City Hall. They would be requested here first, like someone would request a picnic shelter or something else. And then, hopefully the way this would evolve that we've written in here is that the Colonial would have its own sub-website people would go to the website to make those requests. It would still also be able to be done through City Hall. That would go through the board. And we said that that would be established every 30 days. So someone would have to make a request 45 days out at least of when they wanted to use the space, because the board meets once a month. And of course the board also can entertain those things electronically as needed. So that's the basis of the programming policy that's inside here. We spent a lot of time on it. It's had a lot of input. Again, some of these documents we've been working on for a while, thinking about some of these ideas and how they might work. So it's really just meant to really prioritize education, community use, and the city's best practices of things they think might want to be in there, such as things like Stockard or someone that might want to use it that's associated with the city and doing arts or educational related programming therein. There are also spaces for rent that are down in the bottom, obviously, and so there's a protocol for that here as well for people that might teach lessons or do other kinds of things in the space. So that's a little bit about the programming policy as well as the mission statement and naming convention. And I would ask Bryson if he's willing to be able to tell you a little bit about the progress on the facility, part of which we got some good news about today. So Bryson?
I don't think he stopped to take a breath, did he?
Someone's trying to hold on.
Okay, well, I'll make this as quick as I can. Let's see, so some good news. We made R26201 made a $5,000 donation to the city today, which will pay for the facade panels, which will be restored to get the outside of the building look back to its original condition. So that was excellent news today. Also, for those of you that don't know, we were awarded, the city was awarded a $39,000 grant. This would make grant number 5 that we've written for that property. I really was not thinking we were going to get this one. I thought we might have outstayed our welcome, but without a doubt, I think the folks in Charleston at Art, Culture, and History believe in this project and they want to see us finish it. So anyway, and that grant application which we submitted in April was based on a $78,000 scope of work to finish the basement, and of course it's a 50-50 match. So they granted, or they've awarded half of that money to us. So that's good news. If you remember, we had to sit out a year last year, which kind of slowed the momentum of the construction last year, and so hopefully we get it in the full speed ahead and get this thing ready for BCT. They want to do a performance in October. So right now, I think most of us are focused on having mid-October as move-in date. That's what we're hoping. I could go on and on about the details of the construction progress, but do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think that's enough for me. Thanks.
Are there any questions we, your board members, can answer about any of the progress there? Next steps for us would be to bring our next project, or yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're recording, so
yeah.
we have to.
Yeah. Our next steps will be our next piece of work is to work on job description. We're a little bit deep into that process of working on a job description for a potential city employee that we would hope to bring back to council for consideration, along with a search process, along with some recommendations of where you might post such a position. So we hope to be able to bring that back. And I also hope to be able to bring back to you a package of hopefully some logos, branding, some of those other kind of things that could enable us to start promoting and thinking about a website and some of the next step things we think we need to do. But very proud and thankful of the work of the board and other community members, because they've gotten a lot accomplished within 2 meetings in the space in between. So everybody stayed very efficient, very focused, and very thankful for their work.
I have something
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
say. Ms. Buckhannon's wanting to be progressive and professional. It's been in the news a lot lately about using the word colonization. And colonial is a form of colonization. And in the dictionary, that means controlled by another. Okay, so I thought maybe we might want to consider taking that word colonial out of there, possibly, because politically that means racism. So I don't know if that's something you might want to consider, to change that to possibly, maybe we should name it the Upshur Arts Center or Buckhannon Upshur Arts Center. But that has been brought to my attention, so.
All right, so reasonable piece of input, and happy to bring that to the
But,
board for
you know,
discussion.
like I said, Buckhannon, we try to be progressive and professional, so.
Okay.
John, how much, has there been any involvement at all working with the Upshur County Arts Alliance in respect to the Colonial Theater?
I can't say that there has been. Of course, these have been open meetings and advertised, and we'll try to make sure that those entities, and I'll do some outreach to ensure they know that they're welcome at that, at that table. I'm not sure right now, I admit, of the functional nature of that organization.
Yeah, I would encourage you and the board to
Mm-hmm.
consider working with them, because they raise money for different projects and scholarships and so forth, and it just makes a lot of sense to work with a group that's been out there for years and years.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. I think that's an important thing. And of course, and I'll give Bryson a lot of credit. Bryson's been really trying to work to reach out to all sorts of community entities to welcome them to the meetings, talking to the Board of Education, talking to a lot of different groups, trying to make sure people know that they can come somewhere to provide that input. Of course, we recognize we're in the heart of, we started this in summer, so we'll see what we get. But yes, I will reach out to the Upshur Arts Alliance. I appreciate that.
I'm going to miss all this at the end of it, but I'll just have to come back up when there's a good play or something.
Might be one in October, we're hoping, so.
That's too soon.
Don't start crying.
I'm not. I'm just so proud of all of you, and I want to say thank you, because that place was a rat hole, and we all know that, okay? And look at it now. And
Hyphenated.
the city workers and all, and Bryson, all of
Are
you.
you going to start crying?
Yeah, shut up. I can do it if I want to.
He's like he's auditioning for Clue.
I thank you. I really do.
Yeah, Mary, I need to thank me for encouraging my ex-mother-in-law to sell it to the city.
Yeah, she's a great lady.
Now you will start crying.
Keep up the good work.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, thanks for what you're all doing.
Whatever you're doing, if you have some spare time and want to do some other grant writing for some other entities, we'd be glad to, we'd welcome that.
Yeah.
It was 180 pages.
Any other questions?
Single spaced, right?
Maybe they cut the grant down because it was so long.
As a council member and as a board member, I'd like to acknowledge John's work too. He was elected president of the board. We have fabulous board members, but John stepped into the leadership role very quickly and aggressively, and he's done a great job. So I think all the other board members will attest to that as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you. A lot of people are working in their time outside of meeting to make this stuff happen.
Sure.
So thank you to everybody that's putting time into it.
Sure.
Thanks again.
And again, on behalf of the city, we thank Art 26201
Yes.
for the $5,000 today. So it's
Great.
very
Yeah.
much appreciated, and kind of continues to signal the collaborative effort. So,
Yeah, the more people involved, the better off we are.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Y'all have a great evening and be safe.
Do we want to go ahead and take up F1 and F2 in case there's any questions? Or-
I think we need to get David though, I mean, if they're willing to wait, but Abby's
It's
gonna-
going to be a while.
Okay. It's up to you then, yeah.
Hey, David, so we have some members of the Colonial Theater Board here, and then we also have 2 items to take up under strategic issues for discussion or vote. Would it be okay if we go ahead and take up F1 and F2 while they're here, and then we'll get to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, council, I'm going to entertain a motion that we bring F1 and F2 both to the table for discussion and vote now.
So moved.
Motion by Thomas, second by Mary.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay, F1 and F2 are now up for discussion. F1 is the recommendation from the Colonial Theater Board to amend the ordinance 450 renaming the facility to the Colonial Arts Center, or CAC in short.
What was the name we're changing from?
Colonial Theater.
Colonial Theater.
And that was the name of it when it was a theater, when it was a, right, okay.
From the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It was always the Colonial, or?
Yeah. 1930 to 1972, it was the Colonial Theater. Then it became the Cinema 5 until 1980.
So it started in 1930, is that when it was
That's
built?
when the West family purchased and opened it as the Colonial, 1930. And there are other colonial theaters across the United States.
Yep.
Okay, thank you I guess this is where I show my age. It wasn't, in my lifetime, it wasn't a theater. Okay,
You got Pam's concern.
is there any other discussion or concerns relative to the naming of the, or accepting the recommendation from the Colonial Theater Board to rename it to Colonial Arts Center? We've heard from Council Lady Bucklew. Is there anybody else that would share a concern?
I'm reading the definitions of colonial and relating to a characteristic of colony or colonies, native or inhabitant of a colony, a house built in a colonial style, and this is just what I'm pulling up in just like Google. But you know, I don't know if there's any more discussion that you want to have on that, Pam. Or,
No.
no? Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and call for the question to accept the, well, I need a motion.
So moved.
That's right, a motion to get it on the table. So we have a motion by Mary to accept the recommendation of the Colonial Theater Board to amend Ordinance 450. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Rylands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. F2, the approval of the Colonial Theater Board programming policy and adoption of mission statement. It is back in about the mid area. It's right. I think it's right behind the. It's right behind the financials. I believe it's on the. Well, I thought it was, or maybe it's. Oh, it's down here behind the budget revision. It's down here on the budget revision. Here it is. It's about 2/3 of the way back. It's on the back of the budget revision information, Colonial Arts Center programming policy.
Got it.
And this is what came out of a couple of meetings that have taken place thus
I
far.
think there was a lot of research done ahead
Yeah.
prior to that.
Right.
Yeah.
By, you know, as John had alluded to and so forth, but then it was fine-tuned and, yeah.
I'll quickly read the mission statement since it is short. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Mission statement of the Colonial Theater Board. The Colonial Arts Center will serve as a community arts hub, facilitating and providing venues for creative and educational opportunities for students, artists, and audience members through diverse programming. That is the mission statement for council's consideration. Are there any questions while we have members here about the programming policy and or mission statement?
No, I think it looks like a thoughtful programming policy that taking this one step at a time, and I would move we accept this.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by CJ that we accept as presented. We have a second by Mary. Is there any further discussion? Hearing the need for none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. I'm still waiting for that delay, you know, waiting on your delayed
I can't hear Jack on the phone.
Okay. You guys have anything else you wanna say, or?
I think they all want to hang out for the entire meeting.
I mean, I would. That's what I would.
I'll throw something out there. There are a lot of Wests that live in Upshur County. I don't know, Bryson, if you knew that as part of your research, but I have two Wests living in my neighborhood. They don't have that name now, but that's their parents and grandparents and so forth. So there's a lot of Jeannie Ward, Peggy Johnson, and Mary Ellen. They're all three daughters of West. And,
You gotta speak up a little, Dave.
got a lot of grandkids and great grandkids that are related to the West, the initial West.
Dave, we certainly want to promote or celebrate the West legacy as it relates to the Colonial Theater. And as we mentioned earlier today, Becky made a significant contribution to the facade restoration fundraising. So she was one of the top contributors.
Yeah.
And going forward, it seems likely that unless a large corporation decides to give us a lot of money to name a place, it seems likely that the main auditorium would continue to be represented by the name of the Colonial family and the West family and the Colonial Theater, and perhaps the upper floor could continue to be the Gray Barker period, the Cinema 5 period. But both of those would be, of course, contingent on any entities that might want to contribute, have some ownership in the facility.
Well, they're a great family, and they do a lot of things for the Buckhannon.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay, Mr. Howell, we are ready for you, sir. I appreciate you working with us to get that presentation out the door first.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us tonight. I want to thank the council for hiring us again to conduct the 2020 audit in the city. The city of Buckhannon is a very important sponsor to our firm, and it's also a very important city for my family. My youngest daughter is enrolled in Wesleyan there to attend the nursing program for the next 4 years up there and play volleyball for Wesleyan. I'm very glad she picked the city of Buckhannon to go to college in. Before I get started, all of members of council, mayor, reporter received a copy of the annual audit report.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If anyone did not, please get with Amy, and she has copies of it she can provide to you, and she also has a PDF version that she can use. First off, I want to start off with explaining what it was that we were engaged in. We were engaged in providing an opinion on financial statements. That entails basically looking for errors and omissions in the amounts, disclosures, and presentations of the financial statements themselves. We were not engaged to detect fraud. That's a surprise to a lot of people when they learn that their financial statement audit is not designed to detect fraud. However, the objective of detecting fraud is fall under the auspices of a forensic audit. And under a forensic audit, the auditor will actually conduct an investigation and examine evidence to what could be a crime. That was not the focus of our engagement, which was to provide an opinion on the financial statements. And because we were engaged to give an opinion on the financial statements, fraud may exist within the accounting structure within the organization of the city and not have been detected by us, because again, that was not the focus of our engagement. Also, we were not engaged in an opinion in the internal control structure of the city. What we do in our audit is understanding the key internal control elements that we need to allow us to provide an opinion in the financial statements. We do not examine every internal control in the city. They're going to examine the underlying control objectives of the transactions like another control environment factors of the city. So because of that, weaknesses in your internal control structure may exist and not been reported one by us because, again, that will not be objective of the product. Also, our procedures were based solely, the audit procedures supplied by us were based solely on our professional judgment and on professional standards. Which means we did not look at every single transaction in the city. We selected the transactions of material and significance in our professional judgment and examined those transactions. For example, we didn't look at transactions of 50 cents. We have a pop machine, we look to see what happens with the pop machine money, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make that clear as well, just what we did and did not do as part of our engagement in the city. Does anybody have any questions about what I just covered, Mayor or members of council?
That pop machine money is where we hide everything, so. We have no pop machine, though.
Okay, I won't get into that one. If okay, I'm going to turn it over, the presentation, to my associate, Terry Henderson, and he's going to run through the actual financial statement itself. And Terry, Jim will explain the every step.
Good evening, everyone. I'd first like to take the opportunity to go and thank Andy and city staff and Richard Trent for all of their assistance in providing us with necessary information that we requested and answering questions and aiding us in conducting the audit of the city of Buckhannon. I'm going to try to do a high-level overview. I'm not going to go into, unless you have questions, detail on the exact numbers in the financial statements. I would first like to draw your all's attention to page 3 in the report. It's the independent auditor's report. And I'll give you all a second. If you like. Okay, so this is essentially what you all have hired us to do, is render opinion on your financial statements. So the first paragraph basically stipulates out what we have done. So it says we have audited the company's financial statements of your various the governmental activities, business type activities, your street component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the city of Buckhannon at June 30, 2020. And the next two paragraphs basically they list out what management's responsibilities are and what our responsibilities as the auditor are. If you all want to go ahead and look at the next page, page 4, I want to draw your attention to the summary of opinion. So this year, we did have a qualified opinion that was issued on the water fund and on the business type activities. The business type activities encompass all the proprietary funds, which the water is a proprietary fund. And what the basis for that qualification was in the paragraph below. And it was because we were unable to observe a physical inventory count for the water fund in June 30, 2020, because we were not under contract as the city's auditors as of that date. And nor were we able to satisfy ourselves as the carrying value of inventory by other audit procedures. So basically, we were not engaged to do the audit at the time, at June 30, so we, per the state auditor's office procurement process, were not able to engage in that activity because we were not engaged, we were off. So the qualified opinion paragraph down below that states out that except for that basis for qualified opinion for the scope limitation, the water fund and the business type activities financial position was fairly stated in all material respects June 30, 2020. So then the rest of the funds, so your governmental funds, your general, all else is encompassed down in the unmodified opinion, which is what's referred to as a clean opinion. So there were no modifications to those at June 30, 2020. And I don't want to get into too much because I know you all have a lot to do. The next thing I want to draw your all's attention to is the page 5. There's an other information paragraph. And this is basically summarizing your supplementary information in your financial statements. And this is actually one of the things that we, other than your basic financials, that we actually render an opinion on. And it basically goes on to state that all of your supplementary information in all material respects was fairly stated. So that is the independent auditor's report. The financial statements are listed next. I'm not going to go into specific detail in the financial amounts unless you all have specific questions you all would like me to answer. Overall, it did very well during the year, given the last 3 months. COVID started. I didn't see anything that I felt the need to draw your attention to from a financial perspective. The one thing I do want to draw your attention to is on page 76 of the report. And this is a new report this year. So the legislature had House Bill 2439 passed on March 5th, 2019, and it amended West Virginia Code, Chapter 12, Article 4, Section 14. And basically, what they have began to require is that entities that either receive or expend $50,000 a year in state grants are required to present this schedule in their financial statement. So, city did receive over that amount and expended more than that amount during the year. So I just felt the need to draw your attention to this. This is a new schedule. The financial statements are pretty much mirror what they were last year, other than this schedule year. And I just felt the need to draw your attention to that it is a new schedule required by state code. Next, if y'all want to get to page 77, so this, I'll give you a second to get ahead. So this is our report on internal control. Our yellow book, governmental audit standards report. So what this says is that essentially we do not express an opinion on your all's effectiveness of your internal controls, but if we did identify deficiencies in your internal control, such as material weakness or significant deficiencies, that we would bring it to your attention. However, as normal, we did not find any deficiencies in your internal control that we were required to report to you. So that's always good news. On the next page 78 is there's a paragraph for compliance and other matters, and we are also required to test things such as that you are in compliance with laws, regulations, grant agreements, and if we were to find that you had not complied with any of those things, this is where we report them, but like the material weaknesses or the weaknesses in internal control, we did not find any, so that again is also a good thing. And that pretty much sums up the report there. The last thing is 79 and 80, that's your scheduled findings, scheduled prior findings, and both of those have no because we did not have any findings for this year, nor were there findings for the prior year. So, something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions before I turn it back over to Dave?
Are there any questions? I don't believe so.
All right, thank you all.
Secretary of the Union States, Andy and the county staff, Mr. Church, for cooperation and hospitality they afforded and helping us get our job done. One state council, mayor, and board for hiring the Mr. Mayor, suggest maybe entertaining the motion to accept the 2020 audit.
So we had so the audio is not tremendous, but what Mr. Howe has, so Mr. Howe thanked us for continued, doing business with his firm, and that our audit came back as it always does, clean as a whistle. And he asked that we, if there would be a motion, that we would accept the financial statement as presented for the year end June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Rigger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing the need for none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion has carried unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Have a good evening. And if you don't have to drive, you don't have a long drive ahead of you.
That's all right. Excuse me, I'm going to Buffalo Wild Wings there.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Happy 4th of
Would
July.
you have still gone to Buffalo Wild Wings if that motion failed?
Should go to CJ Maggie's.
Absolutely, we'll be drinking for a different reason.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Susan Alloy, I spoke with her earlier today, she also spoke with Mr. Sanders. She is going to delay her comments from the Planning Commission meeting that was held back in the middle of June until the July 15th meeting. So said that was okay. So we are down to Dennis for your report from the Upshur County Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. If you want to follow along on the copies I provided, there's color pictures on the back sides later in it. This is for the meeting of 28 June, which was just last Monday. The board welcomed a new member, Mr. Donato, who is the new pool director. The election of new officers resulted in Josh Hinchman returning to be chairman, with Julie Kastner as vice chair and Rachel Weber as the secretary. That term of office is for 1 year. Trails reported that they had a day when they weeded and trimmed the trails. This was called Trail Day. And there were refreshments. Rachel Weber also reported that they had a great time riding after the work. She also reported that the financing for Trails gift purchases has been approved. They will have engraved pint glasses for sale. More stain was provided for the kiosks, and J.J. Ford and his son will do some along with Josh Hinchman. At this point, we heard from the Youth Environmental Club and their ideas for the abandoned concrete pad behind the Fred Kreitz Memorial Football Field. They requested funding and the authorization to get started. They presented a short plan, and this plan is attached to the end of this report. In discussion, some of their ideas were to have some fencing around bad areas and leveling the area. They noted that this YEC club is outside of the high school. Sam Walker attended by phone and announced that since he has moved to Clarksburg, he will not seek to renew his seat on this board. Dennis Cordes, however, did send in his written request to renew his seat. And finally, the poles for the disc golf are ready to be cemented into their holes. After the meeting, there was a tour of the pool and the improvements, and you can see a picture there of the new little library has been installed. And just another note, when the poles do get cemented, I'll go ahead and take some pictures and put them in the report. Respectfully submitted by Dennis P. Cordes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Take care, bud.
I did receive your letter, and we intend to reappoint you to the board.
Good, thank you.
So we'll discuss board appointments here later on in the agenda. Okay. First up, under the department and board reports, we have Public Works Director Jerry Arnold.
Thank you, sir.
We have a sign.
Here's your sign.
Wonder how we got those.
Yeah.
Does it have a
I'm still,
microphone
I'm still
attached to
thinking
it?
about this band I'm starting with, that John Walsh referred to.
Yeah.
Thinking
What's
Jerry
that gonna
Jerry
be?
Hall.
Hey, he can march in the
One
Walmsley.
big parade, that's right. Yeah.
I'm looking into some asset tracking software that would be used across departments again. I had a company contact me, and of course looking at what we currently use for our work orders. The streets continuing to work on the sidewalks on Smithfield and North Canal Streets. Again, Smithfield, they're about completed with the portion that we were having significant problems with water inundating yards. So once that's completed, I'll move both of those crews to Canal Street so we can wrap Canal and Spring Street up and get back on schedule for paving this fall of that. And then we'll go back after that to finish up Smithfield. The sewers also continuing to work on Spring Street. Sanitary portion is about completed, and they will begin hopefully next week. The way it looks, they're going to start back and reset and start on the storm. They're bringing the storm. Reported a couple meetings ago that they were about 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Now we are probably about a week behind schedule, so we hope to make that up on the sidewalk portion whenever we start our sidewalk and street repairs. Nothing new to report in water or waste, other than, again, Jeff Walmsley retired, and we're still, I'm still just kind of taking on his responsibilities for now, and gonna evaluate that department. Engineering, Jay reported that the EPA risk assessment emergency response plan, JH Consultants, is to begin work on the required emergency response plan this month, and it's due December 10th. And Gateway West, we received a punch list of repair work that the state's wanting us to do before they will sign off on the project. Again, the lights are all wired up, the electrical inspection's been done. We're just waiting on lawn power to energize the circuit, and those lights will be set to go. I'm crossing my fingers they do it tomorrow. I really was hoping that. Of course, I don't know if that'll be good with fireworks, and then we light up the whole area, so that defeats the purpose of the fireworks, but I would like to get those lights on. City Hall roof repair, or roof replacement, he's begun working on the specifications and the drawings required for the roof, and hope to have the bid package ready for advertising and bid within the next 4 weeks. And just to report this evening, at your next meeting, we'll have it on the agenda for vote. But we had put out an advertisement for bid for some surveying work on our FEMA lots and some other properties around town. And that bid opening was held today. And the results of the bid opening was received 3 bids. And Mountain State Land Surveying bid the project at $37,600. Civil Environmental Consultants bid at $30,800, and the low bid was Potesta and Associates at $23,850. So again, just for your information for tonight, and will be on your agenda for consideration at the next meeting. And that's all I have, Mayor, unless there's questions for me.
Are there any questions for Jerry?
Jerry, I have not heard the street sweeper this year. Is it?
It's been out, Dave. It's not on a weekly schedule because, frankly, sometimes weekly is just too much to wear on our equipment. So we don't send it out weekly, we send it out as needed. And so encourage people that if we don't see the need for it on the street, call in and we'll certainly put it on the schedule to run their area. But I have had the guys out several times with it already.
Okay, so I think there's several streets that will probably be getting calls.
Yeah, just tell them to give us a call.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Remember that is?
Do what?
How
See
smooth
that?
works?
Yeah, that's real smooth. Thank you.
Don't forget your sign.
Oh, he already moved it.
I'm gonna move it.
See, you didn't even see that happen, it's like magic.
No, I'm gonna go make JB one real quick.
All right.
Good evening.
Up next is Ann Barrel with our financial report.
I can't resist. I've got a name for the band.
What?
Pop Machine Bandits. I can fix you right up.
Oh, I like that, that's pretty good. Is that hyphenated?
Okay, so balances, I got that's May. See, I'm in vlog, I can tell you from this week. I've been here every night. So I put May there and it's actually June. We finished up June 30th. June 30th is general fund money market and checking was $1,306,045. The CD was $86,093. Historic landmark savings $3,026. Fire truck savings $38,424. Stockert Youth Center capital campaign $440,352. That includes the $12,000 pledge. Coal tax $49,206. Financial stabilization, $814,736. Flood control account, $9,392. Consolidated public works, $161,270. And there's a cemetery CD for $234,182. And then the sales tax dropped because we had to bring the rest of the allocated money over to general funds while you have a higher balance. And it is $876,266. Of course, we've been working on getting the books balanced out for the end of the year. We've been busy, real busy with that for the last couple of weeks, and particularly this week. I've got the ARP account opened at the bank, and the mayor has signed the documents that need to be submitted through the portal. I worked on that today, but I want to look at it again just to make sure I didn't miss anything before I submit it. And then we'll be ready to request the funds to start coming in for ARP. In your invoices to be approved, one's worth noting: Larry Gregory, $4,000 for the first half payment of the fireworks, $1,590 to Superior Environmental for the asbestos inspection at 65 East Main Street, $1,500 to the Department of Justice for the Police Academy tuition, $5,167 for Intact U.S. Holdings. That was for that Bryce Braxton case that Tom alluded to, that the insurance company took care of, and that was the share of what we had to pay for towards lawyers. $1,300 plus furniture for recliner at the fire department. $10,104 Capital Electric for street lights in the North Spring Street area. $4,623 Immerse tile, and that was the tile for the theater that we got the $5,000 back from ARC 26201 today. And then $2,575 to World Block for bin block forms, and I don't know what bin block form is. So that's all I have for now.
Okay. We do have a budget revision that we'll take up down under strategic issues for discussion and or vote. So we'll hear back from Amby in just a little bit. Thank you. Fire Chief J.B. Kimball.
Mayor and council, Mr. Rigger, tickled to see you out.
Thank you.
Wasn't expecting to be here, but I'm glad to see you out and about. So, in your packet, you'll see the monthly activity for May.
flip over here, we had 84 calls for service in May, which is about equal to last year. I left my packet at the firehouse. We had a call when I just returned here. I didn't grab my packet. So year to date, I was looking on the board today. By the end of June, at the 6-month mark, we're at 662 calls, I believe it was, on the board today. If you get a chance, come down. Randy was down. Robert Lowther had his Fred Everly Technical High School electric class in and took all our old lights down in the bay and put new LED lights up for us. We purchased the lights. They did the work for free. Very good time. Took them 2 days. Borrowed a scissor lift from the Shaws and one that the city had rented, and they had 2 crews working on that for 2 days. Very good time. It also created camaraderie among us with the kids. You know, they were looking at fire trucks and we showed them around. They got to see us go to a structure fire, so they were interested in that. So it was good times, and I would encourage all departments, if you don't have the contact number for Mr. Lowther or any, you know, they also lay block over there. They do all kinds of stuff that they need to get people out and do for their training. And that's the second time we used the electrical class. They come and wired up our gear washer that washes our fire gear. We moved it, and they put new box and stuff in for us. So they do really good work. They're supervised well, and they're very respectful in the fire station. So I'd encourage all departments to look into that. We have several members of the department completing a Firefighter 2 class, and we also have, I believe it's 4 members completing their Pro Board certification on the aero operation. That $1 million piece of apparatus down there, we don't just let anybody drive it. You have to have a Pro Board certification class to do that, because it's not just driving a truck, it's knowing where to put it and how to set it up and everything like that. A lot of stuff can go wrong doing that, so you have to be well trained at that. So we had another accreditation meeting, discussed a lot of training stuff, and we'll be moving on into another section of that at the end of July. It'll be more into vehicle maintenance and fleet replacement and stuff like that. So it's going well. A lot of talking, a lot of questions, a lot of information. We had our second mutual aid training out at the cinema with the ladder truck, and 2 other departments from the county came in and flowed water, hooked fire hydrants, just going back to some basics on fire hydrants and how to flow, we call it big water. That way, if they have to come in and mutual aid us and help us with the ladder truck, they'll know what's needed to supply that truck. So we have one more slated for July 13th, and it'll be the last 2 volunteer fire departments that haven't got to do it yet. So, and then we'll move into some other aspect of training to provide. Suffin, the truck seems to be on time. We did get a call the other day that they're only receiving 2 radiators a week now when they were getting 8. So we don't know if that will affect ours or not. So you know how everything's going because of COVID, everything's behind. And so hopefully one of those 2 will be the radiator for our engine. So we'll see. We'll keep you up to date. We're supposed to be getting some pictures. They got the framing and starting on the cab and stuff. So as of now, it's on time. And I wanted to talk a little bit about fireworks safety. You know, we're moving into, it seems like every night at my house I can hear big booms, and you know, there's a lot of people that have critters in their house that are scared. You know, and I feel for them. I have a dog that's afraid of fireworks. So, you know, just think about your neighbors. It's a good time to celebrate, but you know, let's keep it to a small time. Don't mix alcohol and fireworks. I've seen the tail end of that, and it doesn't work very well sometimes. So have a good time, but respect the neighbor, and let's enjoy what the fireworks the city puts off, and we'll go on. So, any questions? I can go through my responses here if you want. They were on a different page.
You gonna be training with the building across the street?
Yes, actually, I talked to Vince. We're waiting on them to remove some stuff. We've already did some training on that building. We trained on the 15 Cleveland Avenue. We cut it up pretty good. They're wanting to remove the windows. Apparently it's old glass, and I think the door windows.
Some of the doors, there's a few things still in there that need to be removed, and there's a whole asbestos issue that has to be dealt with.
But once we get you can go. We're ready to do some training in it, and we'll also, when we do that, we're going to try to bring in our mutual aid companies to be able to do that also.
And you're scheduled to set up down by the fireworks tomorrow night?
Yeah, we'll have an engine down where they're setting off. Yes, yeah, like we always do.
Chief, I just want to say, y'all be safe with the fireworks, but also I want to say it's not the animals and the elderly. There's, we have a lot of veterans, okay? And people, veterans who have PTSD, and when they hear fireworks going off, it can really, really mess you up.
The problem is the city has an ordinance that gives you the, when you could do it and can't do it, but the county does not.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I've heard fireworks like you for the last 6 weeks, not every day.
And they're big ones too.
Yeah,
But they're, from what I hear from my house, they are outside the city.
Yeah.
Or, we would go and either us or the police department.
And I think the county commissioners ought to say something about it, because, one of the issues I have in we live in a meism society too much. You need to think about, we all need to think about other people and their pets and so forth.
Yes.
I did get a call. I was talking to Chief Roby today up in the Bank District, and he mentioned that they had a structure fire, and their engine is out of service right now. He asked for assistance from Buckhannon Fire Department. He was really appreciative that you guys backed him up. He said it was a great cooperative effort, but he wanted me to pass the thanks along tonight at the council meeting to you, and just acknowledge the fact that it was a good crew that went up there and assisted, and he really appreciated having an engine up there, at the time.
So we're here to help, and he contacted me the other day. Their engine had broke down, and normally we just send staffing, to help them. We don't send an engine, and since his engine was down, we sent an engine also with that response. So
he wanted me to pass those words along.
Yep, appreciate it.
Thanks, Judy.
Yep.
Anything else for Chief Kimball?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Tom sent me a message, and he just
here.
Yeah, he is here, but he said he doesn't have anything of any major to report under C4, so we'll go ahead down through the rest of the agenda. Correspondence and information. We have the press release that Randy did for the fireworks to be displayed tomorrow night, July the 2nd, in conjunction with Festival Fridays. I believe they'll go off about 9:45, and we're going to set them off from the same place as we always do, down behind Citizens Bank, and we thank Citizens Bank for donating the property to do that. So the best viewing will be in the courthouse area and along West Main Street, as well as from Jawbone Park. We've got a notice of advertisement for requests for
That was me.
all right.
You got me. My tuck didn't get me.
That didn't turn into a missile.
Well, I didn't. We don't want anything bad to happen. Request for engineering service. Call for engineering services. We talked about that at the Waste Board meeting this morning. Notice Police Civil Service Commission accepting applications for position of full-time entry-level police officer. We have a water rate ordinance filing in tariff form number 12 with public notice of change of water rates. That's relative to the ordinance that we passed at our last meeting. We have a binding commitment letter with the West Virginia Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council about the FEMA generator project. Letter to the Upshur County Commission joint collaboration request for the rehabilitation of the existing Tenderton water storage tank. We don't have those two. Right. At the end. Okay. Which Randy, he spearheaded going up to the county commission meeting a couple weeks ago. Myself and Jerry and Jay were up there too, and we made the formal request for them to help us and help everybody with the Tennerton water storage tank project, since it serves about 90% outside of city limit customers and about 10% city customers. But it's a need because of where it is relative to the high school. So it would be a good project to collaborate with them on with the ARP money. So we'll have more information about that in late August, first part of September. We don't have.
We do not have D7 and D8. Yeah, those are not in the packet.
Okay. And okay, so down to consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes from the.
We do not.
We do not. That's right. Sorry, I'm getting. But we do have the approval of the building permits and wiring permits and the approval of the payment of the bills. So our consent agenda request for motion and approval will be relative to E2 and E3, and we will have the minutes from the 6/17 meeting at our July 15th meeting. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda E2 and E3?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rigger. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, F1 and F2 have already been taken care of this evening, so we're down to F3. Approval to submit grant application for Wamsby event, deadline on July 20th. Mr. Sanders, I'll defer to you.
Actually, I'll defer to Andy.
Okay, we'll defer to Andy.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. I mean,
Okay. We've been working with Region 7. This was brought to our attention originally by Callie Sargent over at West Virginia Wesley College. Actually, the first application round would have been under Callie when she was here, when Callie Sanders was still here, but it was right at the end of her tenure, and we literally had days before her final day of employment. And as anyone that's worked on grants can appreciate, those are very time consuming and very hard to construct. So we just did not have the ability to apply in the first round, but we certainly had the ability once we started working again with Region 7 to apply in the second round for the National Endowment of the Arts. And we had Dion Allen from the Region 7 has done quite a bit of work on this to this point, and she has also asked for assistance from Craig Buckhannon. CJ's been instrumental in getting a lot of background information on a lot of the events that have taken place in Buckhannon and the success of those events. Also reached out to the West Virginia Strawberry Festival. This is Dion who has done that, gathering information on attendance, the success of the events. Other organizations, I believe, Art 26201, BC2, Community Theater, so they're really digging into the Buckhannon, how much Buckhannon has embraced the arts, embraced these type of activities, so that when the package does go in to the National Endowment of Arts, it'll have its very best chance. Now, she also set up a consultation with an advisor from the NEA, which we had a meeting with Amby and myself and Dion. Was there anyone else on that meeting, Amby?
No, that was just us and then the lady from the National Endowment for the
Right. And she really walked us through quite a bit of different, she obviously just gave us a walkthrough of what had to be part of it. We had questions on whether or not the how the application had to go in, and because the Wamsby Organizing Committee of Buckhannon has not yet been technically approved as a 501c3 and recognized by the IRS, because that takes a while, even though it's a charitable organization. She advised us we needed to apply through the city of Buckhannon on this first round until we get certified by the IRS as a 501c3. So the application is moving forward under that. So in order for it to make sense, we will be carving out certain activities that we would dedicate under the city of Buckhannon's production element. So we might take like the parade or something of that nature and designate this grant to be focused on that produced event so that we can still meet the deadline so that we don't miss the opportunity of receiving funds through the NEA grant. So we're applying this round under the city of Buckhannon. The next rounds will probably be applying under Waumsby Organizing Committee Incorporated. So what's on the agenda tonight is approval for us to continue to submit the NEA grant for the Waumsby event. The deadline of that submission is 7/20/2021, and that would be a matching grant, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's a matching grant.
Right, and
We don't know that, we don't have the budget on that.
right, we have no idea. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll develop that after we get.
right.
Right.
So council, that is where we stand on that. Region 7 put a lot of work into this. We appreciate that, and I mean, I'm always an optimist, you know, and as CJ says, if you don't ask, you know.
Don't ask, don't get.
Don't ask, don't get. So I'm going to abstain from the vote on it, I guess, to be appropriate, but I would ask the council to approve the continuation and the submission of that NEA grant application.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Mary and a second by CJ. Is there any discussion?
Did we talk one time about $100,000?
Well, that's already been, that was already approved.
We approved that, right?
That part was approved, and that's been put into the Waumsby account, and that's, yeah.
And what do we know the amount of this grant yet?
We don't yet, but we're
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, we can ask up to 100,000, they said, but it's very unusual for one entity to get $100,000.
Right.
But we'll show that we already made a commitment on it.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
question.
Yeah.
And we'll do this is a matching grant also.
Right.
Okay, and it probably would be appropriate just to have the final, although we'll probably have submitted it by the 15th meeting. We could have just a little update.
Oh, we'll
as far as what
yeah.
that just to kind of come back around on the 15th.
And we've also, as a side note, we have started to set bi-weekly meetings. So the Waumsby Committee is meeting every 2 weeks, and we can start making reports to council on progress.
Okay.
On a more frequent basis too.
Okay.
You got a first and a second? We'll vote now, right?
Yep, we've got the motion and a second on the table. We've had discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for the delay. I appreciate it. It's been that way since December, so I wait for it. Like, sign, opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll abstain. So.
Yeah, that's right. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Sanders abstains. Everybody else votes in support. Okay, down to F4. I would like to ask the council that we split these up. I've got some I want to get through this evening, and then some I want to defer to the 15th meeting. And basically, how I came to this decision is who meets between now and the 15th, and then who meets after the 15th. So, so this evening, what I'd like to go over with you is the top part, which starts with Amby Jenkins and ends with Brad Hawkins. That's all of our top administration, and move down to water, waste, and sanitary, then to fire and police, zoning, building, housing, Stockard, planning. And that's, I think that's it. Yeah. And then the next meeting I would like to tackle Consolidated Public Works, TV Cable Board, Historic Landmarks, Gibson Library, CVB, Airport, and Recreation. So first up, there are not a lot of changes in what we have to look at this evening. The first part, everybody remains the same in their position. You will see a highlight under Waste Department Superintendent. We had a brief discussion under executive session last meeting, following last meeting, that Jerry Arnold would like to assume the position for a while and evaluate and see how things go before we dive into hiring somebody for Waste Department Superintendent. And I think everybody kind of said that that was something that they would be interested in doing. Jerry met with the Waste Department Board this morning with myself and Mary Allball and Scott Randall. And we talked Randy was here too as recorder. We talked at length about that in his position there. So I think he's good with helping lead that department, and we'll keep monitoring that, and he'll keep us posted as he continues to work through there, and let us know if we need to bring somebody on board. So real quick, Assistant City Recorder Amby Jenkins, Finance Director Amby Jenkins, Director of Public Works Jerry Arnold, Addressing Officer Jerry Arnold, City Police Chief Matt Gregory, Fire Chief J.B. Kimball, City Engineer Jay Holland, City Architect Bryson Van Nostren, Building Code Enforcement Officer Vincent Smith, City Attorney Tom O'Neill, City Horticulturist Dixie Green, Municipal Court Judge Helen Eckert, City Electrical Inspector Vincent Smith, Section 504 Compliance Officer, which is ADA, Brad Hawkins, SYCC Director Deborah Brockelman, Floodplain Manager and Coordinator Jay Holland, City Technology Officer Rich Clemens, Information Coordinator Randy Sanders, let's see, Grant Writer Region 7, City HR, Human Resources is Amby Jenkins, Water Department Superintendent is Kelly Arnold, Waste Department Jerry Arnold, Sanitary Department Buck Samples, and Street Department Park Superintendent Brad Hawkins. Do we want to go through all of these and then ask for a motion for all, or do you want to go through each one and ask for a motion with each one? How do you want to do it?
You could use a motion for what you just read.
Okay.
Yeah, do those first.
All right, so for the top administration that I just read, I will entertain a motion that we accept the slate as presented. A motion by Dave Thomas, to have second.
Second.
A second by Pam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like, sign, opposed. Motion carries.
I'll abstain.
Okay, yeah, let the record show that Randy will abstain. He is listed as our public information coordinator. Moving to Water Board, the only one that we had up for renewal was Don Nestor. So I asked Don to stay on board. He agreed. So we have, I serve by default the chair of all of our enterprise boards. So we've got Don Nestor, Raz Rizzo, Jack Rigger as counsel, Dave Thomas as counsel, and city recorder. Can I have a motion that we accept the water board?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
We have CJ and Pam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Abstain.
Both Councilman Rigger and Councilman Thomas abstain due to their positions on said board.
And I feel like I can vote because I'm a non-voting member on it. So I'll go ahead and vote.
Okay. Yeah, you're
I'm non-voting, so,
yeah. Waste Board, Scott Randall, Mary Allball, City Recorder. There are no changes. There were no positions up for renewal. Can I have a motion that we accept the Waste Board?
You don't need to.
No changes.
Well, I'm going to go. I think
So moved.
we're going to go through all of them.
Okay. All right.
All right. Motion by Pam, second by Dave or CJ Rylands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Sanitary Board. We have Gene Fry has agreed to stay on. I asked him at last meeting, and then Phil Loftus and City Recorder. I entertain a motion that we accept that slate.
So moved.
Motion by Thomas, second by
Second.
Allball. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay. Police and Fire Civil Service have no change. Actually, yeah, they do. Sean Harris takes over for an unexpired term vacated by Elisa Lively. Then we still have Jerry Henderson and Mark Spencer, who was appointed last year, and City Recorder. And then under Fire Civil Service, we've got no change. Lenora Wentz, who is a chamber representative, Bob Parker, Abigail Benjamin, who's a city rep, and then the city recorder. I'd entertain a motion that we accept both the fire and police civil service.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ryland, second by Albaugh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed, motion carries. Zoning Board of Appeals, Ann Levisay, Tim Reese, Jenny Duran, Corey Rozelle, and then we have Dean Everett coming over to us from Planning Commission. That is a change. Shauna Jones resigned that seat due to her work commitments, so Dean is the new one, and he actually asked me last year when I asked him to be on Planning Commission if he could be on zoning, he'd rather do that. So I told him there was an opening this year, so he jumped. I'd entertain a motion that we accept it.
So move.
We have a motion by Randy, a second by Thomas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries. Let's see, housing is, let's see, Mayor's Chair, Jay Holland, City Engineer, David Thomas, Council, Sue McKissick, Vincent Smith, and J.B. Kimball. Sue McKissick, Vincent Smith, and J.B. Kimball are non-voting members, but because of the positions that they hold in this community, they are on the Housing Board. Therefore, there are no changes, but I'll go ahead and entertain a motion that we accept the Housing Board.
So moved.
Motion by Jack, second.
Second.
Second by Mary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, Thomas abstains.
Because he's on council, but he's
Yep.
on the board.
Next page, Stockard Youth Center. Everybody remains the same. Mayor, Recorder, Pam Bucklew, Tammy Samples, Sam Nolte, Melissa Frank, Nancy Shope, Rob Rupp, Don Nestor, Pam Martin, and Troy Buddy Brady. Troy and Don are the only two that were up for renewal. I asked both of them to stay at the last meeting, and they both agreed. I'd entertain a motion that we accept Stockard Youth Board.
So moved.
Motion by Rigger, second.
Second.
Second by Albaugh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. All right, Planning Commission.
I abstained on that.
Okay.
Approve my vote.
Planning Commission, several changes. We lost Dean Everett over to zoning. We had a resignation of Sean Harris to go over to Police Civil Service. We have the renewals of Clemens, Wilkerson, and Alloy. I spoke with all three of them. They are excited to continue to serve. Under the two that we needed to fill, Sarah Ailstock Gaither lives on Florida Street, and Sarah St. Clair, so two Sarahs from Chestnut Street. And then they will join Mike Sharpaliski, Kelly Tierney, of course, Rich Clemens, Curtis Wilkerson, and Susan Alloy. Vincent Smith is a non-voting member. C.J. Rylands is the council member. And then, of course, City Recorder is a non-voting member on there as well. I'd entertain a motion that we accept that slate of officers for planning.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Albaugh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I think, oh, okay, over here on the next page. Housing Authority, which is different than Housing Enforcement. This is on the next page, is Jerry Wilfong, Rose Clutter, Kitten Lee, and Michael Livesay and Catherine Fry. Catherine Fry was the only one up for renewal. She requested to be renewed on there. So there are no changes, but I'll entertain a motion that we accept the Housing Authority.
So moved.
Motion by Mary, second. Second by Thomas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay.
Is it?
Well, We just appointed the Colonial Theater Board. It does not have a term of office, so I'm not going to go through that one since it's just been appointed.
Right.
Animal Care and Control, we'll go through that one real quick. There are no changes to it. I am by default the chair. We have the Upshur Lewis Animal Control Facility Rep, Elisa Linger. Upshur County resident, Allison Clausen Whitehair. Upshur County resident, Robin Keogh. Also resident, Lisa Critchfield. And veterinarian, Tanya Pickens. The DNR has an ex officio member. It's not specified. The Upshur County Dog Warden is also a member of it, is also non-voting. City Recorder, a city attorney, and a member from the animal shelter. They're all on there as non-voting members. I'll entertain a motion that we accept Animal Care and Control Commission. Motion by Thomas, second by...
So moved.
Second by Randy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, that takes care of our list for this evening. We'll take up the remainder ones that fall after the July 15th meeting on July 15th. That way we're not... Okay.
Excuse us for just having.
Oh, sorry. All right. F5. We have an event request that, because of timing, could not go to Consolidated Public Works. It is July 10th. Create Buckhannon is asking to have Shakespeare in the park. That will be at 7 p.m. in Jawbone Park. CJ, do you want to tell us anything about it?
Yeah, we apologize for not getting our application into Consolidated in a timely manner, but the opportunity came that we could hire Vintage Theater Group to perform in the park, and we like diverse art to be presented. And so Saturday night, Shakespeare in the Park, it's no charge to anyone, open to the public, and give you a little alternative artistic viewing if that's your desire. So apologize once again not getting it in, so now I've got stuck in this so we could get it approved before.
I think it's wonderful, and I'd make that motion if you'd call for one.
Absolutely.
Is there a rain location if something happens?
No. Rain or shine.
Rain or shine, we'll take big umbrellas.
I'll second Mary's motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mary, a second by Thomas for Shakespeare in the Park, July the 10th, 7 p.m. at Jawbone. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. F6. We would like to ask that we reschedule the City Council meeting that is supposed to be slated August 5th to August 3rd. That would be a Thursday to a Tuesday, and that is because we have Municipal League that week up in Wheeling. I will be there. Mr. Sanders will be there. So we've got, instead of having to, and Mr. O'Neill probably will be there too. Instead of us having to break away from programming to try to virtually run a meeting or drive back to Buckhannon, we would like to move it to Tuesday night before we leave. The conference starts on Wednesday. Would that be okay with everybody?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion by Thomas. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second by Rylands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. F7 and F8, we are in need of Ambarrel's services. We have two budget revisions to take care of this evening. As we all are aware, that today is the very first day of the new fiscal year, and we always have to do budget revisions as we start the fiscal year. The first one is relative to coal tax for the fiscal year 21-22. It is in your packet, and I will defer to Amby to walk us through budget revision number 1.
Okay, budget revision number 1 for the coal tax. As the mayor stated, we just finished closing out the books last night to know what the actual balance on hand was going to be for these funds. And by code, we have to have budget revisions completed for coal tax by July 15th. and general funds can wait until July 30th. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the information on them, and council can consider what they want to do with them, but one for coal tax will have to make some sort of decision tonight. Balance on hand, we estimated it as 1,000. We always underestimate that, thinking that the street department might do some large projects and use the funds. However, they didn't. We ended up with $49,200. I can't talk to that. $49,206, and that made a difference of $48,206 that we had to allocate into the budget. So we put that in the one and only line item that we have in coal tax, which is street materials and supplies. So we estimated that we was going to have $15,000 in expenditures. We added the $48,000, which makes the final budget for that one $63,206. That's for the coal tax. This is number one for the new year.
So we need a motion for that?
On that particular
Yes,
one.
this is
It's a
resolution
Oh, okay.
2021-07. So
Okay, yeah.
we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Alball, do we have a second? Second by Thomas. It's a resolution, so we'll need to do a roll call, and I will defer to our city recorder to do the roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Allball,
Yes.
Mrs. Bucklew,
Yes.
Mr. Rigger,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Sanders votes yes, Mr. Skinner.
Yes.
Now I'll pass this for signing after we do the other one.
Okay. Budget revision number 2 is, well, it would be the budget revision 2021-08. This is for general fund fiscal year 2021 and 2022, and it's got a lot, it's action-packed with a lot of information. So, Amby, you take it away.
Okay, so revision number one for the general fund for the, like you said, fiscal year 2021-22. And what I did was I went through my notes, and anything the council had mentioned that they might be interested in contributing to, I put it in there. Then there was a couple things that came up. This is for council's consideration. I just want to make it clear, if you do not want to approve this one tonight, you have one more chance. If you need something revised in this, you have another chance. I can do it on the meeting for the 15th. Or we can change it tonight, however you want to do it. But it's got a lot of stuff in it.
You have to have it done by July 30th.
I have to have it done by July 30th, yes. Yes. Good information, Mr. Thomas. You know, you've been here a while. You know the routine.
Maybe too long.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is a big one, probably one of the biggest we've ever had.
Just before you start, for the council's benefit, if you flip your page over and turn your books like this, it'll be much easier to follow along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always put a worksheet with mine. I don't give you just what I would contribute to the state, because I want you to see line by line item what I'm talking about, and then you can that'll help you make your decisions as well. Okay, so in the original budget we worked on back in March, and was approved in March, we estimated that the balance on hand would be $704,910. However, we brought that sales tax money over that we had allocated towards general fund. There were some projects, you know, that we were anticipating doing. Then we also got some CARES money, and throughout the year, some of that was allocated, but we ended up with $1,306,045. So we had to adjust this budget for $601,135. I'll just go down through line item. We also had to ask for an extension for the ADA grant for the theater because we didn't accomplish that in the last fiscal year. That was a $10,000 grant with another match of $10,000 for the city. So that extension, it didn't happen, so I brought that over, that $10,000 grant over for this year to complete this year. The other item was mentioned here tonight, the Arts and Culture Theater grant that we worked on in March. We anticipated we would apply for $50,000, which would be a $100,000 grant, and the grant was actually approved for $39,000. So I'm reducing that line item $50,000, $11,000 to take it to $39,000. That's on the revenue side. So it ends up being $600,135. Okay, now, like I said, I just went through my notes on separate things that had been discussed in council, and I'll bring those to you for your consideration. And here we go. Okay, under professional services, I put the $25,000 in for the FEMA surveys that Jerry just talked about. We just opened those bids today. I think it's actually close to 24,000.
23,000.
Yeah, 23.7 or something like that. So that's in there. The original budget had JH Consulting and the CPA in it, so 25,000 for surveys. Under events, we are doing a truck and children's fest this year. That's been talked about. We're going to do fireworks again. We had put in the original budget $5,000 for the Strawberry Festival. So I put another $20,000 in the events line item for you to consider if you want to contribute more to festival next year or toward fireworks next year. And again, we can revisit this anytime, but we are talking about that. Contributions. Laura Meadows will be here from the Upshur County CDB next meeting, but she had put in a request to council in writing a few weeks ago to ask for $25,000 to help sustain them throughout the year because of their loss in revenues from the pandemic.
That's an additional 25,000?
Yeah, 25,000 contribution solely, not from the fees, because, you know, there's a specific allocation for the fees from hotel motel.
And we're giving them how much now per year?
Well, it's not per year.
It depends on what we get in hotel motel taxes.
Right.
They only get it that
But it's somewhere around 40 or 50,000.
So that's a pass-through.
I'm sorry.
The hotel motel tax, is that a pass-through?
It's not 100% pass because some of
It's
that's
70%.
70%.
Some of that's for horticulture.
Let me find their line item again. It's about, yeah.
But that was significantly down this year.
Yes,
Oh,
it was.
yeah.
That what they actually received last year was less than what we budgeted.
Right.
Yes. I think it's in here, if I can find revenues and expenditures. I can tell you that.
And what, didn't we do a special, already do one special
No,
contribution to them?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
no, we only gave them what the allocations were. They received this year $72,000.
All from hotel motel taxes?
Yeah. Yes, they only received their share. Yes, that's right, $72,000 is what they actually received. Then in City Hall building repairs, that's your next line item. I added the $51,000 for the landscaping around City Hall that we talked about in the previous meeting. And actually, just as a note, they're going to start that next Wednesday. And we also need the doors and the foundations. We don't have our quote back yet, but I asked Jay what he thought that might be in the app, you know, give me a number. And he said, just put 40,000. He said, probably won't be that much. So I added 45,100 to City Hall for the doors, foundation, and landscaping. The other thing that City Hall needs attention on, and it has been a problem, but it came up again when we had some property damage near City Hall. 6 of our cameras are out and haven't been working. They're dead. So Jerry said we probably should put some funds in there to get those cameras fixed or replaced. Actually, they'll need replaced. And he's $15,000 is the number he gave me on that one. Okay, the next line item has been discussed, and again, I don't know if you just want to allocate the money. There's a whole hiring process that council has to go through if you want to do it, but this has been discussed in council meetings, and you've indicated that you wanted to hire 3 firemen, so I added that into the budget. That makes about $187,000 for salaries and benefits. That's in there.
So why are we kind of putting the cart before the horse here? This is, the hiring of 3 firemen is an official action of this council, and the public deserves to be notified of any decisions like this and the conversation needs to be held in public. It's obscured in a budget revision, and I don't get this. If we decide to hire 3 firemen, then we make a budget revision and allocate the funds.
We can do it that way too. This had been discussed, and pretty much I got the feeling that everyone wanted to at least go with the requirement.
Well, I
That's
think,
fine.
There's a lot of other issues to be discussed in this hiring, you know.
yeah.
I'm fine with taking it out, I just.
Amby, my recollection is, we had a very interesting discussion. We spent a lot of time on it. And I'm in favor of hiring some additional firefighters, but at the same time, I'm not going to agree to do it until we have an increase in the fire fee and have a first due. And I think we were all sort of, you know, my impression was that we all, not all of us necessarily, but the majority of the city council thought we need to have an increase in the fire fee and the first due. And, you know, maybe the county doesn't want us to do that, but I think it's important for us to do that.
Okay.
I would probably agree to everything that you're going to talk about this evening with a budget revision, with the exception of hiring the 3 additional firefighters, until we can have a serious discussion about the fire fee and the first due.
Okay, I'll pull that out and then I'll just.
I mean, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I'm fine with that. We have, like I said, I can change it. You'll have time between now and 2 weeks if you want to have some meetings about it or not.
I think we should. It's a heated discussion and we need to continue.
I have a question. I thought that there was agreement that we were going to hire 3 firemen. And then Mr. Ramos brought up the grant possibility. And then we were going to wait for that. And then we found out that the grant cannot be used to employ new personnel. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
So my understanding was, since we're not eligible for the grant, I thought as a council, we pretty much agreed to go ahead and hire the 3 firemen.
Absolutely not. That's
And
not-
then the fire, and then
I didn't
the
agree
fire,
to hire.
well, wasn't that part of the discussion?
We never
wanna discuss the fire
never
fee?
decided to go and hire the firefighters until we found out about the grant and also an increase in the fire fee or a first due fee.
I don't
You know,
recall that.
I do recall that, yes.
I thought we were going to hire them also, and then if we didn't get the grant money, go forth with putting the extra fee on the bill to come up with the extra money that we have not raised on the fire.
But we never officially agreed to hire 3 new people and add over 10 years, probably with inflation, over $2 million to the budget without a public disclosure. We're going to have this conversation and make this decision and give an opportunity for people to have their voice. I mean, there's important issues here. If we're going to hire 3, are we going to go to 3 full-time firemen coverage at all times?
Well, we've been talking about for months.
Or are we,
months and
you know,
months.
are these going to be
discussed that in
like all the
May.
other firemen and work 60 hours a week?
We discussed that in May, and nobody has followed up with us. We put
Right.
that on the table, and the budget revision came out. I'm just here to see what happens. I was not part of talking about the budget revision. I was told it was going to be put in there.
Well, who asked to put it in there?
I put it in there because I understood it was part of the discussions of council.
Yes.
And this
I
is
said
something you do preemptively if
Well,
there's a
yeah, I mean,
possibility of something happening?
yes,
That's
I
why
did.
she's bringing it here tonight.
I put, yes,
But we
it's
had
up to
a
you.
lengthy discussion about this.
I mean, I put the $25,000 in there for the,
The FEMA.
surveys,
That's
yeah.
her job to put it in there.
Yeah, it's up to you to
It's our job to decide if we want to do it or not.
It's our job to discuss it, but.
I'm not deciding it.
Yeah, Amy,
Yeah, she doesn't vote.
we had a long discussion about this, the grant money, the first due, an increase in the, for the city residents, and we all even also talked about the sales tax money at one point in time. But the general consensus was, let's get the 3 firefighters, but let's figure out how we're going to pay for it. That's my recollection. And I do not want to do it until we really have the citizens that are going to benefit from it, and
Pay for
the
it.
$25 fee a year for Upshur County residents that don't live in the city is absolutely ridiculous. And we got to do something better than what we're doing today in respect to that. And JB, I'm not against hiring three firefighters, but let's do it in a rational way that's going to pay for it.
Well, I want to interject where we have fallen down is we didn't follow up with those meetings. We had a very robust and a good meeting, and I'll take as much blame as anyone else in here, but we didn't schedule a follow-up meeting.
Well, that doesn't say we should accept this proposal.
Well, it doesn't say, but we can't keep, we can't have good,
Well, we
constructive,
can't keep
robust
putting
meetings.
off what we should be doing.
We got 30 days to decide this in regard to what Amby said, July 30th. So you're saying that we should go stick another $187,000 into this budget without talking about fee increases?
I mean, like I said, I can pull it out, we'll put it in something else, rainy day, whatever you want to put it in, and you'd have time to discuss it later and pull it right back out.
But I would like to ask the council, what do you think about increasing the fees in the first due? Why not?
Because we've already talked about that and talked about that.
But we
and
haven't
never
made a
do
deci-
anything.
we haven't made a decision.
Well, then fine. Put the money back in there is my recommendation. We'll put it on the agenda and have a discussion again about it.
Yeah.
Okay? But get the one thing at a time there. Okay?
Pull this out then.
Yeah, pull that part out, pull the money out in there, and
Well, I'd like to have the mayor have a call for another meeting then.
Yes.
yes.
Definitely.
Because that's what we need, another meeting, because we've all been in
I know, I
public,
mean,
but let's move on, okay? Let's move on.
So we're pulling that out.
Yes, let's move
Well,
on.
I'd like to tell you about the rest of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly, but we're moving on past this. But we will by all means schedule another meeting.
You may not want the other things that I understand.
No, that's why you're going through it.
Yeah, I mean, I just
I think
think
you're doing, that's fine. Abby.
This is
I
just a
didn't mean
routine.
to cause problems.
You're not causing any problem.
Okay, so
She's
street,
only doing what she said.
street
Exactly.
projects. Street projects. We had, for street projects, the $66,515. There were some lights that were supposed to be ordered for the South Canal Street project, and they actually got a quote on it and thought they'd ordered them, but they didn't, so of course we didn't pay for them. So Jerry asked for those to be put back in, and then we added another $20,000 for that street projects. So that's the $66,515. The street capital outlay, $7,000. That is for a scissor lift that Jerry said he would like to have if possible. We have been renting scissor lifts, and we probably paid for 1 or 2 scissor lifts just by renting them, so he'd like to have that. The theater capital grant, the $11,000 that I took out of the revenue side, I needed to take out of the expenditure sides, but here's a question. The original amount that we had asked to contribute to the theater grant was $100,000, so that would be $50,000 on the city side and potentially $50,000 on the grant side. So we're going to get $39,000 on the grant side, and I wondered if council would be interested in keeping their $50,000 in there, which is $11,000 more to use towards the theater, and that's up to you. I can take that out too if you like. Same way, that changes that line item from $100,000 to $89,000. Let's see. Oh, the ADA grant, again, the $20,000 down there is from the AD grant that I had to carry over from last year. On the second page, you'll see Stockert capital outlay, $24,500. The asbestos we did an inspection. The asbestos removal will cost $14,500, and then the debris to dump it at the dump is going to be estimated about $10,000 for the the Pythias house, and it's $24,500 for that revision. The other thing for your consideration, we haven't contributed to this flood control project for some time. Jay just had a Army Corps of Engineers inspection, and they made it clear to us that we had not been doing what we were supposed to do with the cleaning of the riverbanks. since 2014. He believes that we'll probably get a minimal acceptable rating again, but this 50,000 would help us design a plan to clean up the riverbanks and possibly have enough money to begin the process of cleaning out some of the trees and debris along the riverbank. Jay believes we probably should put $100,000 in there in the next couple of years because of that whole area from the flood control project back in the 60s has really not been kept up very well, and it's really not.
It's overgrown.
It's overgrown.
Big time.
Yeah, there's some large trees in there. We attempted to try, I said we.
We have to subcontract that.
Yeah, the city tried to take some trees out, and it's just very dangerous. There should be professionals doing that, not us in our trucks and chains.
Well, I think 50,000 is not enough for something like that. We're way, way, way behind. And that's really important that project.
I think so.
And this is a result of our agreement with FEMA.
The Army Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps of
back
Engineers.
in the 60s before we were even thinking about Buckhannon much.
And we agreed to do it.
Yes,
That's
there was
the whole
agreements
point.
made, yes, back with past councils before us that we would maintain that flood control project and keep those riverbanks clean. They went through, and you could see pictures.
It's a very dangerous
We can
project
actually-
if you're not.
It is.
if
We
you're
can
not-
probably bring in some old pictures. I mean, it was all cleared up through there. Now it's overgrown, trees are in the river. So this is an attempt to try to.
I would put $100,000 in there instead of just 50.
I agree, it's gonna cost probably more than that.
Well, it's gonna cost a lot.
Boy. But what's gonna happen if we don't plan it and put the money in it and get it, because the street department guys can't do it.
Well,
You
this
gotta
is-
contract it, and it's gonna cost a lot of money, but in the long term, that's what we need to do, because it's the big flood can come again.
Well, this will assist us in a plan for it too.
Yeah.
And then we can do a presentation and put.
Well, you can have a budget revision in October or November too. so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I got the balance on hand right now.
Need to get it on the-
Okay, so the other two items were the contributions to the municipal stabilization fund, and I thought we ought to put 100,000 back in there. And then a contingency fund for council of 26,490. Okay, so I'll make those changes and we can present it back to you prior to the next meeting. And then you can look at it and make your decisions, and then have something that you want to approve on the next meeting.
So we all could, we're gonna have another meeting to discuss the 3 positions and how those are gonna be funded. And then if we wanna make some adjustments, like the FEMA, the river, instead of 50, put 100,000 in there,
Yes.
if we can.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll let you.
Well, what are we gonna base that off? We're gonna try to get some estimates from somebody?
I think we should ask Jerry.
Well, Jay has been dealing with the.
Yeah, well, ask Jerry or Jay both to go out and see who are subcontractors that will do this stuff on the river.
Jay has.
Yeah.
That's where I got my numbers from.
Okay.
Jay has already.
And we might get a better deal if we have them do more than just, come in for a couple days or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I will revise it. I'll send out a draft to everyone, and we'll take it back up on the next meeting if that's what you
And
want.
Amy, you still, we're in so much better shape because of the sales tax money. It's incredible, am I correct?
Yes.
Long term.
Yes.
And I think one of the things we have to do as city council, with the mayor and you, and the planning committee and so forth, long-term planning committee, is with the kind of resources that we're going to have for the future, we believe what are the priorities for the city that we need to take care of eventually. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Amby.
I need to pass this one around to get the signatures on.
All right, we can do that as we're going.
Well, Robbie, I just want to say one of the
Is
things
that blue?
one of the things that's very obvious when David House was giving his presentation is we're very fortunate to have somebody like Amby in our taking care of
We are.
the finances.
Amy does a great job, and Amy spent a lot of time preparing all this stuff for us to consider.
She
So
needs a vacation.
Good luck with that.
There's your pen. Hold
It's
on.
not because we're slave drivers, but she won't take one. Okay, council comments and announcements. We'll start down at this end of the table while they're signing. Pam, you're up. Nothing.
I
CJ?
did not, you weren't paying attention.
Jack? Glad to have you back.
Be back. That's all I have.
Dave Thomas?
I just want to thank everybody that works for the city, the staff, and all the council members and the mayor and the recorder, and the new Colonial Board. And you all be safe.
Thank you. Mary?
I don't.
Okay. Randy?
Well, I just want to let everybody know that in my day job, I produce pageants for the Miss Universe organization. And coming up on the weekend of July 9, 10, and 11, we'll have 29 ladies coming into Buckhannon, representing different parts of West Virginia. They'll be coming here with their families. We'll be utilizing almost all of the hotels in Buckhannon. We'll be utilizing several of the restaurants, including the Opera House, which will be hosting a reception. We have a lot of support from the business community, Main Street and beyond, for the Miss West Virginia USA and the Miss West Virginia Teen USA pageant. So it's going to be a 3-day event with a preliminary competition on Saturday, July the 10th, and a final competition on Sunday late afternoon on July the 11th.
Where is it?
It's going to be held at the Virginia Thomas Law Center for the Performing Arts on the campus of West Virginia Wesleyan College. I want to thank West Virginia Wesleyan College because they have gone above and beyond with their support from all aspects of the campus. And right up to giving scholarships to every one of the participants, scholarship opportunities. And the winner will go on to the Miss USA pageant, which will be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Thanksgiving weekend. One of the exciting things that the winner will participate in is in September she'll join the other 50 representatives from the United States, all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And all 51 ladies will be flown, all expenses paid, to Cancun, Mexico for a 3-day retreat and a fashion photo shoot where they'll have their national headshots done. We have over a $10,000 wardrobing package put together, which we'll talk about a little bit more for the winter. So it's a big deal. It's really a big deal. So I just want to thank everyone who has worked hard to put this event together. The local support has been phenomenal. So I want to thank Buckhannon. The media has been phenomenal in covering it. So we'll have a lot of big news coming out over the next couple of days as we're 9 days away from the event. So hope folks will come out and watch the show. Again, July 9th and or the 10th and 11th at the Performing Arts Center on the campus of West Virginia Wesleyan College. So thank you, Buckhannon, for all the support.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for bringing it here. Yeah. At 9 o'clock, I entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
We're not going to have an executive